All right, welcome to today's edition of the show. It's always nice to have you join us. This is Political Spectrum coming to you live from Uyo, the state's capital. And I remain your host, Onumesi Ehinoma Olusegun. As always, today promises to be exciting and engaging as usual. Our conversations continue on everyday political and economic developments in Nigeria. Conversations on policy and policy actions of government with the immediate reactions by citizens, big businesses, institutions, and the civil society, making government more accountable to its people, our viewers. Now, first, on President Tinubu's administration's calendar. Today is 16th of October. It's a Monday, very rainy day, 2023, and it marks exactly 141 days of President Bola Tinubu in office as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is now exactly 4 months and 21 days as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. All right, let's begin to take the developments one by one. And the first over the weekend has been what people have been gotten people talking and lots of criticisms, a little to the right, a little to the left, which is Tinubu's one of Tinubu's latest appointments. Tinubu appoints new EFCC chairperson whose, according to critics, whose qualification has become controversial. Now, the appointment announced in a statement by President's spokesperson on Thursday confirms media report days earlier about Mr. Tinubu's plan to name Mr. Olukoyede as the next EFCC chief in disregard of the law, according to critics. Now, President Bola Tinubu appointed Olanipo Olukoyede as the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, an appointment that has stirred controversy over the candidate's qualification for this same job. Now, many are of the view that Mr. Olukoyede, a lawyer, may not be qualified to be EFCC chairman under the law, establishing the Anti-Corruption Agency. Now, the president also approved the appointment of Muhammadu Hamajoda as the secretary of the EFCC for a renewable term of 5 years. Now, both appointments are subject to Senate confirmation, Ajurin Gulale has said. Now, the presidential spokesperson who signed the statement said Mr. Olukoyede's appointment followed the resignation of the immediate past substantive chairman of the commission, Abdurrashid Bawa. Now, Mr. Bawa has been in the custody of the State Security Services, SSS, facing investigations over undisclosed corruption. And that's really mind-boggling, undisclosed corruption. Now, since his earlier suspension from office in June. Now, media reported that Mr. Olukoyede, although a former secretary of the EFCC and ex-chief of staff to the chairman of the commission, did not meet the requirements of Section 2(3) of the EFCC Act to be qualified for the appointment. Now, according to them, the law stipulates that the chairman of the commission must be a serving or retired member of any government, security, or law enforcement agency not below the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police or its equivalent, and possess not less than 15 years cognate experience. And that is the bane of the matter. Now, Mr. Olukoyede, a lawyer, had no experience in any security or law enforcement agency until his first appointment at the EFCC in 2016. If you count back 2016 from now, you probably will be counting, say, 7, 8 years. Now, when he was appointed to serve as the chief of staff to the then acting chairperson of the EFCC, Ibrahim Magu, who also went into custody after his tenure. Now, he held the position from 2016 to 2018. He was subsequently appointed as the secretary of the commission in 2018 and served in that capacity up till 2020 when he was suspended from office by the then President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, still continuing on Olukoyede, he was suspended alongside Mr. Magu and some other officials of the commission. He and Mr. Magu were never recalled, while Mr. Magu was replaced with Mr. Rashid Barwa in February 2021. Now, Mr. Olukoyede was replaced with George Ekpungu as the secretary of the commission in the same June 2021. But the presidency statement announcing the new FCC appointment on Thursday stated that Mr. Olukoyede served as the secretary of the commission up till 2023. Now, controversy over Olukoyede's qualification is a raging controversy over Mr. Olukoyede's qualification to occupy the office of the EFCC chair. Now, some believe that he does not meet at least one of the three major criteria in the provisions of Section 2(1) of the EFCC Establishment Act, which requires the chairman to have at least 15 years cognate experience. Now, this assertion is based on the fact that Mr. Olukoyede's experience in any security or law enforcement agency only began with his appointment as the chief of staff to the EFCC chairman in 2016. Now, in 2018, Mr. Olukoyede was appointed the secretary to the commission, a position that qualifies as membership of the EFCC and can safely be said to be higher than the equivalent of the rank of assistant commissioner. Now, another argument from another point. Assistant Commissioner of Police. Now, as the EFCC Secretary, Legal serves as the head of administration of the anti-graft agency, but Mr. Olukoyede held this position for only 2 years, between 2018 and 2020, when he was suspended by the then President Buhari without being recalled. Those who believe he's not qualified to be EFCC chairman argue that the number of years of his cognate experience, even factoring the number of years he served as chief of staff at the EFCC, the only law enforcement or security agency he has ever worked in, was insufficient. If he had continuously worked at the commission since 2016 unstopped, he would only have garnered about 7 years of experience at a law enforcement or security agency, which opponents of his appointment believe falls short of the 15 years cognate experience required to be qualified to become the chairman of the commission. Now, on the other hand, some have argued that Mr. Olukoyede ticks all the right boxes to be qualified as EFCC chair, and that those who believe otherwise are only reading into the law what is not contained in it. It gets interesting. Now, Section 2(2) of the EFCC Act clearly identifies the secretary as a member of the commission. In fact, the provision designates the chairman and the secretary of the commission as the only permanent members and others on the EFCC board as part-time members. Interesting, right? Now, those in this school of thought say Mr. Olukoyede meets the first condition of being a serving or retired member of any government, security, or law enforcement, having served as the secretary of the EFCC. They also say that his position as the secretary of the commission for 2 years was well above the equivalent of an assistant commissioner of police or its equivalent when compared with the rank of officials that head the administration of other law enforcement or security agencies. For example, a deputy inspector general DIG is the head of administration in the Nigerian police force. That's right. Now, concerning the third condition stipulated in the same section 1A, Roman numeral 3 of the law, which requires a candidate for EFCC chair to possess not less than 15 years experience, the defenders of Mr. Olukoyede's appointment argue that his year-long pre-EFCC experience involving combating corruption and fraud also forms part of his cognate experience. This experience, they say, does not have to be from working at a government institution, as it is not stated as such in the provision. Now, they argue that it is improper to add to a legal provision what the maker has not included. Now, we've had back and forth arguments, and then people have drawn in technicalities as to the appointment of Mr. Olukoyede. All these and more we are going to be having to chew and substantiate as the program progresses. Now, let's quickly take a look at another quick development that we need to touch on, and that is Nigeria ranks number 4 on World Bank's borrowers list. Guess what? With how much? $14.3 billion debt. You need to do that calculation in Naira, then you will have an idea of what Nigeria owes. Now, according to the World Bank 2023 annual report, Nigeria was one of the top 10 countries that received new IDA loans this year. Nigeria has been ranked in the 4th position on the World Bank's top 10 International Development Association IDA borrowers list with $14.3 billion in debt. Now, this was revealed in the World Bank fiscal year 2022 audited financial statement, which showed that Nigeria moved to the 4th position on the list with 13 billion IDA debt stock as of June 30th, 2022. Even though Nigeria maintains the 4th position, it has accumulated about $1.3 billion in debt within just 1 year. Now, however, according to the World Bank's fiscal year 2023 audited financial statement, Nigeria owed around $14.3 billion in IDA debt stock as of June 30th, 2023, but maintained its 4th position on the list. Bangladesh surged up the rankings to become the largest IDA debtor, surpassing India at $17.9 billion in debt, which dropped to 2nd place. Pakistan retained its 3rd place ranking from the previous fiscal year with a debt of $16.9 billion. Excuse me. According to the World Bank 2022 audited statement, now Nigeria has the greatest IDA debt in Africa, make no mistake, while the top 3 Asian borrowers are Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. Now, according to the study, the bank allocated $1.55 billion to Nigeria in the fiscal year 2023, making the country the 9th highest beneficiary of IDA bank loans. Enough for you to chew. The question is, where are we going with all the issues surrounding the CBN and all the debts we are owing, especially the fact that we have been financing our budgets in some kind of deficit technicality. All these are enough for you to think over. Now, let's quickly look at a 3rd development, which will also form the bane of our discussion today. And that is that Tinubu swears in ministers as Federal Executive Council meets today, 16th of October. I believe by now it should have started. Now, President Bola Tinubu today will swear in 3 additional ministers into his 48-person cabinet. As we have learned, a senior official in the presidency confirmed that the 3 new ministers will be sworn into office at the council chamber of the State House before the commencement of the Federal Executive Council meeting. Now, Monday's Federal Executive Council meeting is the 2nd since Tinubu's inauguration as president on May 29, 2023. It is coming after a 48-day hiatus. Now, the council has not convened since its inaugural meeting on June 28. A week earlier, on August 21st, Tinubu swore in and inaugurated 45 ministers. Now, the 3 additional ministers to be sworn in are Jamila Bayo, Ayodele Olawande, and Balarabe Lawal from Kaduna State. Now, Bayo and Olawande are expected to be sworn in as the Minister of Youth and Minister of State for Youth, respectively. Now, Lawal from Kaduna State replaces a former Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai, whose ministerial nomination was rejected by the Senate, if you can recall. Now, Lawal served as secretary to the Kaduna State government during El-Rufai's administration. The source said there will be a Federal Executive Committee meeting at 12 noon today. And all 3 of them, Bayo, Olawande, and Lawal, will take the oath before the meeting starts proper. End of quote. Now, Article 144(5) of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, recognizes the Executive Council of the Federation, that's the Federal Executive Council, if you like, as the body of ministers of government of the Federation, howsoever called, established by the President and charged with such responsibilities for the functions of government as the President may direct. So they are directly at the exclusive prerogative and purview of the President. Now, the Council's purpose is to formulate policies, execute government projects, and more broadly, aid the President in discharging his executive functions. Now, we will wish the entire 48-member cabinet very, very good luck as they prepare to carry out their constitutional responsibilities. So a lot of questions come to mind. On Tinubu's Federal Executive Council, do we have enough hands, or are they too much, judging from the fact that there's been arguments back and forth that the next president should consider critically reducing the size of governance? All this we will be discussing. So we'll take a short break. Thereafter, we'll be right back for the conversations Thereafter, we'll also throw open the phone lines. I know Nigerians are itching to have their opinion shared on this issue. So we'll give you an opportunity to also call in and try to be civil as much as possible. Remember that the conversation also can be reached via our X handle, that is Spectrum T Online. Remember to search for Spectrum T Online and follow. Then you can drop your comments and you'll be sure we'll attend to them. We'll take a short break. Thereafter, I'll be right back. If you just tuned in, it's Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television. Stay tuned. Join us again.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police.
Beneficiaries of the death of our brother. Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my Lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
All right, many thanks for staying tuned. If you're just tuned in, it's Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television this Monday morning. All right, I'll now introduce our guest who's going to be joining us virtually, but still within the metropolis of Uyo. We'd like to introduce citizen MKO Matthew Kofi O'Connor, who is the Executive Director, Open Forum, a dogged member of civil society and a public affairs analyst. Citizen MKO, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Shegun, my brother.
How are you doing?
Good to be here.
That's good.
I'm good.
All right. All right, we've laid out issues for discussion this morning. I'd like us to start with the appointment of the president, which happened last week, Thursday. And since then, it has gathered momentum. And there's been arguments, even from legal pundits, that there may not be, there may not be a sufficient elements to qualify the person as the chairman of the anti-graft agency. Remember that almost everybody who has been appointed as chairman of the EFCC have always had one issue or the other. And I think apart from the very, very first Nuhu Ribadu, all the others have always ended up under investigation or with DSS and all that. How do you see the whole development generally?
Thank you very much. For me, the controversy that is trailing the appointment of the latest proposed chairman of the EFCC causes concern. First of all, you discover that, like you rightly said, the first person that was appointed, the pioneer chairman, who happens to be Nuhu Ribadu.
Yeah, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu.
There was no controversy. He started the EFCC from the scratch, and let's give it to him. He remains one of the best, despite whatever shortcomings which are not alien to humans. And his exit wasn't based on corruption. It was based on the fact that the government of the day found it difficult to work with him, and they had to send him, I think they sent him on training, whatever course, just to ease him out. And people have not come out to say he was a fraudulent person while there. In fact, it should be proved. And he has been in public domain ever since. He even contested election for president. Remember, he ran on the platform of the
I remember.
Action Congress of Nigeria.
Yes, ably aided by the current president.
He even left that and wanted to contest as governor of Adamawa State. He's been in public domain, and today he is saddled with a position that also became controversial because those in the military felt that you cannot bring a policeman who wasn't
as
a general
national security advisor,
the national advisor.
Yeah,
but he is doing his job. I have respect for him. Outside of that, one of the most controversial chairmen appointed happened to be Ibrahim Magu. Magu had his nomination rejected by the National Assembly, and Mr. President then, President Muhammadu Buhari, refused to drop Magu, kept Magu on acting capacity, God knows
throughout
when, and
his
eventually
tenure.
he ended up, he ended up the way he ended up, in disgrace. And something quite interesting has cropped up. And what is that? That Olu Koyede was first his chief of staff before being appointed as the secretary of the EFCC.
Back in 2016.
Another interesting dimension. Year 2016, he was chief of staff. By 2018, he became the secretary. And by 2020, he was said to have been suspended from office with Magu.
Yeah.
So, for me, I'm not aware, because the position of secretary is not quite popular. We always look at the chairman. Now that we know that the current nominee was suspended and Magu is still on trial, or whatever we may call it, is it that Olu Koyede had been cleared of whatever made him to be suspended along with Magu? That is one question that must be asked and answer given. Yes, but one important advocacy I want to make is that henceforth, let nobody at that level, sensitive level of appointments, be appointed and he resumes work before the name is forwarded to the National Assembly, the Senate, as the case may be, for clearance. It's just like saying, oh, we have appointed ministers and they have started work. They now go to National Assembly for screening and clearance. It is not the best. We should not be adopting that style. Anybody that should be appointed into a sensitive position, send the name of the nominee to the clearing agency, send it to the security organizations, and they will do the investigation and then clear the person, and the person goes to National Assembly, gets cleared, and then he resumes work. What is the secret that we should be appointing people, even if they are qualified or not, before they now go for screening? But looking at the controversies surrounding the requirement for that office, like the person needs to be either in the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police or its equivalent, and needs to have 15 years cognate experience, or must have worked with a law enforcement agency, and that's for 15 years still. We discovered that looking at when Olukayode went into EFCC, that was 2016. And by 2020, he was out. So you're looking at just 4 years of experience in terms of experience in a law enforcement agency. That is one. So like you said, we need to create boxes and then tick those boxes. If there are 3 boxes or 4 boxes or 5, can we tick 3 boxes to see that based on analysis that this person or any other person is qualified? So the first box is you have to be an officer of the law, not below the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police. Is Olukayode an officer? The answer will be no. Can his rank as a lawyer be equated in the military profession as being above Assistant Commissioner
military,
of
paramilitary.
Police?
All right, to sweeten this
Military,
argument.
paramilitary.
Yeah, to sweeten this
Yes.
argument, citizen. Some people have referred to the EFCC Act. I don't know whether my producer has the EFCC Act, the slide now. I would like him to display it so that we can, discuss it. Some people already have argued that, according to the EFCC Act, the chairman and the secretary are somewhat permanent members of the EFCC, while the others, there's a designation they've given to them. So people are arguing that as permanent members, you have already attained the position of Assistant Commissioner of Police. Howbeit, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying, could that be technically admitted, because if there's, then another argument now is the cognate experience. Now, some people are saying cognate experience means, it may mean that from the day you step in as EFCC or you step in as law enforcement, your cognate experience starts to count. Some are also arguing that cognate experience will be counted from the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police. So there are a lot of disparities that are making the argument, instead of making it very straight, it's making it blurry. And yet again, we are going into some kind of meshwork like what we had or what we still have in the case of the Chicago State University. I want you to comment to these major issues I've raised.
You have raised very valid points, but those valid points, for me, still boils down to ticking the boxes, and it will be difficult. Like if we have 5 boxes, it may be almost impossible to tick 3 boxes.
That's correct.
Which will be a pass mark. Will be a pass mark. First of all, we must agree, and without controversy, that Olukayode is not a member of any of the forces, not even the police or the armed forces, except that he has worked with the EFCC, a law enforcement agency. So he is not an officer. You cannot equate his rank. The rank there is completely off. 2, the cognate experience on the job as ACP or as a staff of the law enforcement agency is not there. He has spent just 4 years. But I understand that federal government in their report says he's been there as secretary from 2018 till now. This is 2023, which is not so, because Ekponko, I hope I got the name right, took over when he was suspended. Yes,
that
he
is
was
correct.
Suspended in 2018. Ekponko took over. I'm sorry, in 2020, Ekponko took over. George Ekponko took over and was in office until this very appointment. So the cognate experience, yes, on the job, mark you, on the job, is not up to 15 years. But people may say that he is a lawyer and is area of specialty happens to be with crime fighting or
criminal
fighting
law, as it were.
corruption or
Okay.
whatever, and that, yes.
But those
and
are mere
that
conjectures
may be
anyway. But go
seen
on.
As
Go on.
yes, because you can have a carpenter who has been doing a job, is in the payroll of the law enforcement agency. You cannot say because it's been there for this number of years, even though he's a carpenter, but because he works with the force, his rank is equivalent to this, just to justify that. But I am very happy that this conversation is coming up, because one other advocacy I need to drop, and very strongly too, is to the effect that the law, the act establishing the EFCC Establishment Act, should be amended. We have had about a number of chairmen, and they were all police officers. And none of them, except for Ribadu, ended in peace. The rest ended in pieces.
A lot of controversies. Yes, I
Maybe
agree.
to use that term. Yes. So open up the appointments of the head of EFCC to qualified persons. If you use that basis, Olukoyede is eminently qualified as a lawyer with specialty in crime fighting, in fraud detection. He is eminently qualified. So if you ask me, apart from the aspect which I raised, he was suspended in 2020. Has he been cleared on why he was suspended? If he has been cleared, please, Mr. President, it will not take Mr. President anything to send a bill to the National Assembly for the amendment of the law to allow for qualified persons to come from any other place other than the police force or its equivalent status to head the EFCC.
I quite agree with you that an executive...
We cannot continue...
Yes, I quite agree with you that an executive bill to expand the net of eminently qualified Nigerians will be a better option. I've not been privileged enough to read the entirety of the EFCC Act. I have just gone, through a few of the places that people claim are in question as to the man's experience. But I would like to also chip in something.
I think.
Yes.
Let me just read section. Let me read section 2, sub 3 of that act.
Okay, please do.
I think you raised it too. It states that the EFCC chairman must be a serving or retired member of any government security or law enforcement agency, not below the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police or equivalent, and possess not less than 15 years experience. That is highly, highly restrictive, and it should be amended. Olukoyede, with his experience and having worked there, is eminently qualified if cleared of any wrongdoing, because we cannot start with controversy. Nobody should allow the Magu episode to repeat.
Repeat itself.
Yes. So to repeat itself. That is one aspect, and any other aspect that should be looked into to be sure that we reposition the EFCC to deliver on their mandate. Already, the cases where you have some state governments take EFCC to court to say that they don't have the power to investigate finances. Remember, EFCC is Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. It's different from ICPC, Independent Corrupt Practices Commission.
And other related
even the
offenses
ICPC, I'm sure some states, yes, I'm sure even some states may have even also taken them to court. That if you're a federal institution, you cannot probe our finances. We are a state. This is the federation. So when you find governors who don't even believe in a federating unit, who are not fighting for the practice of federalism, only coming out to shout when searchlight is to be beamed on their corrupt acts. They will now say, we are a federating unit, you don't have right. The law should be amended, and it should be clearly stated that economic and financial crimes transcends constituencies. It transcends borders. And so the federal government, a federal agency like the EFCC, the ICPC, and some that are not even known, National Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU,
yeah.
I guess that's what it's called.
Yeah.
People don't even know that it's an agency. They don't. When the last administration made a rule, it was a presidential directive that the joint account should be abolished and local governments should get their funds. Some states and even some local governments in states said, we cannot handle our funds, so let our funds come through the federal government. We don't want to. And the NFIU went ahead to say that any of the local governments whose funds do not get to them and they cannot track it, they are going to take action. We found out that the NFIU ended up doing nothing. And it went back to business as usual, where the local governments are just there as expensive centers, and the joint account continues with nothing like development at the third tier. So this law should be amended, and it will be clearly spelled out that issues of corruption leads to insecurity. And insecurity, like safety, is everybody's business. So it does not matter if you are stealing money from your local government. Once you are involved in economic and financial crime, the federal government, just like some states, have the right to investigate and try such actors. And in this very line, we in Open Forum, we have been advocating for several years now, like in Akwa Ibom State. We do not have a public complaints and anti-corruption commission. So if you have a corruption issue, you have to go to a federal agency like EFCC, ICPC, and those ones will tell you that, oh, currently Akwa Ibom State government took them to court, there's injunction, we cannot do anything having to do with finances in Akwa Ibom State. This is crime against humanity. So for Akwa Ibom State government, I am using this opportunity, this medium, to once again call on the present governor, Pastor Moino, to please, as a matter of urgency, send a bill to the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly for the establishment of the Akwa Ibom State Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission. And mind you, Shegun, I don't know if you are aware of this, if EFCC recovers money for a state, sometimes that money may not even get to the state. Even when it gets to the state, what will happen? They will have to keep 30% as administrative charges. That information was made available to the public some years ago.
Yeah,
so imagine that 1 billion is recovered, and EFCC has to keep 300 million. You know what 300 million would do to retired primary school teachers?
Even under Malami,
or school development?
Yeah, my citizen, even under Malami, the immediate past Attorney General, there were a lot of controversies, a lot of criticisms over certain monies. Yes. I can't remember which one now. That even Malami came on national TV and said, the monies recovered, it is the president or the presidency that will decide what is to be done with it. And a lot of states that knew that those monies came from their respective states said, no, these monies, yes, you recovered it as a federal anti-graft agency, but these monies belong to us. So I quite agree with that, your argument, so to speak. But the public complaints over corruption for states, the first question I will ask, just like you advocated, will it work? And I will ask you, and I'll tell you why I have asked that question. Now, the anti-graft agency, as we speak, since inception under the administration of President Bola Tinubu, initially was accused as an agency that was being used to fight opposition under Obasanjo. That was too obvious under Obasanjo. I don't know where to fix them under Buhari. Under Yar'Adua, late Umar Musa Yar'Adua was a little bit more civil. Under Goodluck, the same criticisms were given. So at the federal level, if the EFCC is accused of being an agency that is at the whims and caprices of the paymaster, which is the president or the presidency, as it were, do you think state agencies will not only, do you think state agencies won't swing the same way?
I would agree that the EFCC has been used to witch hunt people without basis. It has always been in the position of those who are caught in the net. If that was to be so, successive administrations, at least one of them will have scrapped EFCC, or even ICPC that is in the Constitution will have been scrapped, because let everybody feel free. Nobody should be accountable, held accountable for anything. So when people do not want to be accountable, they will now read meanings to why they are under investigation. And when you also discover that those who were even under investigation, as soon as they switch camp to maybe the opposition, along the line of an opposition comes into power, all the offenses that
have been forgiven.
That person are dropped.
Exactly.
There's the governor, EFCC retrieved about, I think, 40-something houses and a couple of billions along with the name of that person. By the time the person moved to the party that was in opposition, who now came to power, all the houses were returned. And the person was even given a ministerial appointment. So who is fooling who? Institutions must be strong. But in Nigeria, and even in states, we don't build institutions, we build individuals. And these individuals even have the capacity to be who we should look at them to be. So if a state does not talk about fighting corruption, does not give people opportunity to have where to go and complain that, oh, somebody has infringed upon my right, and he only goes to the federal, it's impossible. I have a case with the EFCC here. For how many years? They can't treat it. Why? All the cases in Akwa Ibom State goes to one office. What's the staff strength? Do they have zonal, offices in local government? They don't. An institution like EFCC, ICPC cannot operate one per state and succeed to deliver. People are dying daily because of their rights have been infringed economically and otherwise. So, and funny enough, when we talk about fighting corruption or accountability, I hope you know that in most states, they don't talk about such things. No matter the speech they make, they never dare talk about, oh, we are going to fight corruption. Never. But we, in open forum, we are saying that you cannot be a leader if you are not accountable. And citizens are the real leaders. Those in public offices, they are servant leaders. So we that are speaking for citizens, we are demanding that Akwa Ibom State government, just like Kano State has an anti-corruption and public complaint and anti-corruption commission. And even the immediate past governor, Ganduje, who's the national chairman of the APC, has a case with that body. It didn't start when he left government. Remember the Gandola episode that trended, the Baba Riga Bullion van stuff that was online. So every state needs it. It should be as a law that must be domesticated. In fact, where possible, the amended EFCC Act should stipulate that states should set up their own anti-graft agencies. There's no excuse that, oh, a sitting government will use it to witch hunt anybody. Anybody that is fit to be witch hunted because of fraudulent activities, so be it. We cannot continue the way we are and believe that we will ever leave these woods. We are at the precipice. You must know that, I'm sorry, let me just say must, we should know that Nigeria is where it is because people find being in government as a license to make away with public funds. And we have so much public funds in private pockets. That is why the citizens have been impoverished. And like I kept raising there while there with you, when Labour and TUC were battling the federal government on demands, I said NLC and TUC should get consultants to guide them on their demands, because if you cannot, speaking for workers and for citizens, demand for accountability and for recovery of stolen funds, you don't know the problem of this country. No amount of palliative will address our precarious state, no amount of palliative. So, Anti-Corruption Commission at state levels, not even at local government, at state levels, should be a must. And then the EFCC law act should be amended so that people like Olukayede can assume that office, and any other person, a medical doctor can head it. People with integrity can chair it. Yes, we cannot be so restrictive after very terrible record of almost 1/7 of previous chairman's performance. We cannot. And this is the right time to do it. So I commend Mr. President. Maybe they just did it because we trust the regular impunity of people in power. Let's send it, it will go. The National Assembly will pass it, they won't ask questions. There are questions to be asked, yes.
Okay, but you are also of the opinion,
asking this question.
Citizen, you are also of the opinion that someone like Olukoyede, according to the statute, the current statute of the EFCC Act, should not be screened, or should not, the Senate should not approve him as the EFCC chairman, because according to the Act, he may not be qualified in terms of cognitive experience and many other factors as clearly written unambiguously in the Act. That's the first question I'd like to ask as a follow-up to this. Then secondly,
absolutely,
yeah.
Looking at the boxes, okay? Looking at the boxes, if you have to take the boxes, I don't think we can take 3 over 5 to make Olukoyede qualified based on what the Act says now. We cannot force a camel through the eye of the needle, okay, because it will be border on the miraculous. We cannot be explaining everything. We should not be explaining everything. Once there's a law, you either amend the law or you go against the law. And those that went against the law, we saw their end. We saw it in the case of Magu. Mr. President refused to heed to National Assembly. Thank God for that National Assembly that was very firm. And we also saw it in the case of Stella Oketete. The demands to be executive director of Nexim Bank was 18 years experience at managerial level, high managerial level. She never had it. And she was not cleared by the National Assembly, but she was appointed. Because Mr. President has the capacity to veto.
Okay.
And go ahead with the appointment,
okay,
but it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. We can do the right thing. It may take a little stress. Within the next 3 weeks, that law can be amended, even 2 weeks. Or even within 1 week, that law can be amended so that Olukoyede could take a shot. But first, there must be a public statement to the effect that after his suspension, along with Magu, that he was cleared of any wrongdoing. We want EFCC to work without the head having issues.
I believe the office of the SSS that deals with security issues will be able to clear that. As the development comes, we will hear more on the issue. But you just used the word just now, that the president vetoed. So can the president veto something that is clearly written in the Constitution, or an act that is also as powerful, although the supreme ground norm of the Federation is the Constitution? Can the president veto that? Will that be lawful? Will that be legitimate? Will that be legal that the president will veto?
That is where the word impunity comes in. And when you look at Nigeria in the past few years, even the immediate past administration of President Buhari, Magu was rejected not just once, but twice.
That's correct.
Or maybe even 3 times.
That's correct.
Mr. President said she will stay. The same administration vetoed Stella's appointment or nomination as executive director of Nexim Bank. She was rejected because she did not meet the requirements, and she stayed there and even became nominated for ministerial appointment. And one thing led to another, other issues cropped up, and she was eventually dropped. And Festus Kayamo, who was now brought out from her state, who has replaced her.
Festus,
then,
your very good friend.
And you know that you have people that will defend anything. People defended all of that. And Mr. President can, because of need, can because of trying to fulfill his desire to have Olukoyede, he can veto it. But it's not the best for us. There are issues that should disturb every patriotic Nigerian. One is that, look at INEC. In electoral law, including the process of transmission of results, everything, the press statements, videos, Chatham House discourse with the national chairman, he said how the election was to be transmitted.
Exactly.
But by the time the matter got to the court, even the court said INEC is independent. They can do anything. They can change the rule at any time. So it doesn't matter that even if it's there, they can change it. It is disturbing. And that is why I keep insisting, it's not everything that should get to the court. We cannot hand over our destiny to the court. These are humans, and Nigeria has happened to different sectors, different institutions. We must protect some institutions from being exposed to the Nigerian factor. We in Open Forum, we propagate the Nigerian dream where people can be productive. I am a productivity advocate. I've been in conversation with you from day one here. And then you find it comfortable to talk with me, not because it is well with me, but because I've found my calling, and I try to put in my best no matter the pains I go through. Others are not like that. So Mr. President can veto, and Olukoyede will resume work and will stay there for as long as Mr. President remains. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy. So please, I've suggested 14 days, the National Assembly can work on that bill. The appointments can be stood down for the bill to be amended. Then Mr. President can resend the name of Olukoyede to the National Assembly. Let's show that this government has been a bit responsive. When they came out with the palliative, citizens said no, 8,000 is too small. Even though there's no money, they understood, came down, and they are now planning for 25,000 for 15 million citizens.
Anyway, that's a different.
So that's been responsive.
That's a different kettle of fish, because a lot of people will say that even the review of the palliative now has become worse. But away from that, still on the president's appointment, let's take another one. Today, 3 members of the ministerial cabinet, fresh ones, will be sworn in if they are already not being sworn in as we speak. I'm sure some of our correspondents will be monitoring those events as they unfold. 3 of them will be added. Then we'll now have a cabinet of 48 ministers, and then a few other special advisors, so to speak, or senior special assistants. I don't know how the presidency has constituted it, will also form a part of the Federal Executive Council. And then they said ever since the last sworn in, we had the FCEC meeting, and we've not had for almost 40-something days, and then we're going to have another Federal Executive Committee meeting today to discuss way forward. Now, the question I want to ask, we all agreed that whilst Buhari was preparing to finish his own administrative tenure, there were arguments back and forth that whoever we will take from the three major contestants then should also consider a need critically to reduce the size of government. But in Tinubu's case, we've seen people that are the defenders of the presidency saying that it's not only the president's right to appoint as many, but that there are a plethora of issues that need attendance, and that even the number of ministers are not enough. 48, that's about the highest ever in the history of all the republics where we've had democratically elected presidents. So I want you to speak to the size of this cabinet vis-a-vis the current realities and situations on ground before we take another question and then open the phone lines. Yes, citizen, go on.
Well, the size of the cabinet, I never saw that coming.
A lot of people never did.
For whatever reason, yes, I never saw that coming. First, looking at the economic situation of the country, a country that is currently using over 90% of its income on debt servicing, a current president that has been living on loans ever since he resumed office. Effectively, we understand that he has borrowed over 1 point something trillion. I don't know how many of that loan has gone through National Assembly approval yet. That itself raises question. As we speak, federal government is said to be in talks with World Bank to get $1.5 billion budget support loan. That was reported by Punch, I think, on Sunday. And then we are looking for a loan, $400 million loan to fund the 15 million cash transfer to household. And we are deep in debt. So what is the idea of giving Nigeria the highest number of ministerial appointees? Constitutional requirement is one minister per state, be it Minister of State or substantive, full-fledged minister. A minister is a minister because during swapping, anybody can become what? So if you have 36 states, you have 36 ministers. We also started having the tradition where we have an extra minister to represent the geopolitical zones. That will be 6, and that will take it to 42.
Yeah.
I agree that Abuja should not be ignored, not because it is a state. Abuja is a federal capital territory.
Yes.
And nobody on planet Earth, until that law is amended, would tell us that Abuja is 37 states. It is not. But for purposes of political expediency, somebody from Abuja is given ministerial slot. That will make it 43.
Yeah.
It will still be jumbo, because for me, we will have dropped a minister from geopolitical zones. So 6 will have been dropped. We'll just allow it at 36. Then create a minister for Abuja. Appoint a minister from Abuja, it will have been 37. The Orasanye report that Jonathan's administration put in place had recommended how ministries, departments should be merged to make the scope of those who need to fund their luxurious lifestyle and really fund the ministry as it should be, to reduce it. But it's quite disturbing that instead of cutting the large size, Mr. President has chosen to increase the number. It cannot be defended except by those who believe that poverty awaits anybody. So the earlier their man can get into the center, he will bring some things for them. No country can develop with such mentality. No country. And looking at the retinue of aides, looking at the cost to run the offices of and lifestyle of all the ministers, we are going to take loans to fund this lavish quite unnecessary size.
It is quite
and
disturbing.
Funny enough.
Citizen, it is quite disturbing, sir.
So I won't forget.
Go on.
Hello.
Go on,
Yes.
go on, Citizen.
Some states, a state is supposed to produce a minister, but we find that some states are producing 2 or even 3 ministers. I'm sure of 2. Maybe I need to cross-check. Some maybe even be 3 from a state. What is the yardstick? There are other positions you can compensate because the mentality of politicians is compensation. You don't use official positions as compensation just to occupy them, to reward them that they helped you or they will help you later. You can empower people by any other means that will make them to be able to add value to society. Why should some state produce 2 ministers? Others 1. And like I've said, maybe some states are even 3. It has never happened.
Okay.
And we cannot defend that.
Okay, I quite agree with you because even a particular group from the Eastern Bloc have said that in spite of the fact that the East may not have voted so much for the president, that their group seriously advocated and worked towards the emergence of President Tinubu as against their brothers, and they are a little saddened that the ministerial slots given to the entire East was abysmally low. I could remember for almost 2-3 days they were agitating, but we never heard anything from the presidency. So whilst we continue on this conversation, let's let Nigerians also test the waters by calling on our phone lines. Numbers are 0704-541-707. Call us and let's have a conversation on the issues we have raised. At least you have an opportunity to air out your mind. Please try to be civil. Try to stay on the issues and not certain persons because we are also bounded by rules and we are ready to follow it to the letter. So the phone lines are open from wherever you are in Nigeria. You can call in and join the conversation. So while we have left the phone lines open, the conversation continues. Citizen Matthew Kofi O'Connor. And I'd like to throw in this last question. We've looked at the 2 appointments for reasons, and we have raised those reasons. But there is a reason that joins the 2 together. And it has always appeared as a serious argument, especially on social media by Nigerians. Remember that that's the only window where people can air out their views and feel as free as possible because every other medium is hugely regulated and monitored. And this is the issue. Now, a lot of people have criticized the same President Tinubu, and they are saying he may be or he may have been ethnocentric in his appointments, just like the same criticism of the past administration. Now, do you also see it as such? Do you see these appointments, these key appointments, as ethnocentric? You just raised an issue just now that some states are even enjoying as much as 3 ministerial slots, while some barely have just 1 or even, I mean, every state has. But some are enjoying as much as 2 to 3 slots. So would you say that in the appointment, apart from ministerial appointment, all the other sensitive agencies, just like the EFCC, just like the the military hierarchy, do you also see the president now as ethnocentric?
Well, you judge people by their actions, not their words. Going into the election, Mr. President was sold as somebody who is gifted in picking the best brains. And we had people's name reeled out as having worked with him, and after working with him, they emerged as even vice presidents, ministers, governors in different states of the West. Remember that in Lagos State, Aregbesola was a commissioner. Aregbesola is from, I think, Osun State. Fayemi was a commissioner. He's not from Lagos State. Lai Mohammed was with him in Lagos, Fashola, and others like that. And then even the Vice President, Osinbajo, the former Vice President, was also his Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. He is not from Lagos State. And so people felt, Mr. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, give it to him. He turns people to very productive humans. But for me, that wasn't quite true because we've seen the output of some of those who he mentored. We could not find the excellence when they were given assignments to deliver. And fast forward to this, his presidency, we discover that he may not really have that national spread. Unlike in the West, he has so many people around him that if he is going to do more appointments, expect even more people from the West because that is his primary constituency, not just because he is an ethnocentric person, but that is his primary constituency. That's where he was really operating. He needs people to recommend others for him in other places. And some of those recommended can't even fit in and may not even be able to deliver. So the current appointments, particularly like, I think, what they call this Islamic Murik, have complained that this is not what they campaigned for. When we did the Muslim ticket, it was to protect the Muslims, but we are now coming out to appoint Christians. We can't agree. This second term, no way. We must change. Otherwise, this is going to be our stand. Is there in public domain? So give it to them, those that say it looks more to the West. It's obvious, particularly as a very strategic appointment he has done. But if he does that because he wants to succeed, not like the last administration where people were failing and they will remain there till they left, until somebody will decide to probe each and every one of them till then. But if Mr. President appointment is going to ensure that he succeeds, so be it. But as we speak, where we have seen real action and real hope, it's not coming from appointees from the West. It's coming from an appointee from the Southeast, David Umahi. It's coming from an appointee in South-South, our man in FCT, Nyesom Wike, the man in Internal Affairs, that is handling the passport issues. We are seeing lots of actions there. That is how you look at the caliber of ministers or aides who deliver. His media aide, Ngilari, was just one of the few hands he picked from the last administration. You know, it was a clear rejection of the members of that administration. However, Festus Kayemo, as controversial as he always been, he found his way back to the cabinet as a full-fledged minister. But Ngilari is a very gifted person, and he had promised that what was known as the lie bug would not be part of the system, but he's currently having some issues which I hope he will address, because there's an air about him that if somebody in that office is not doing propaganda and you are doing information dissemination, you won't have issues at all, because he has the gift of oration, he has the grace, he has so much passion that he's bringing on board. But just that some of the releases that have come up for some time had to be refuted and had to be public scrutiny. They could not stand.
The truth about the presidential spokesperson is, if government is not working, there is no brilliance of English or lexical dexterity that would describe it otherwise. And that's why sometimes, if you notice, even during Ngilari's speech, he is battling with a few things, because he was quickly known then for fact check. But when there are no facts and there's not been action from government, then what are you going to fact check?
The truth is that we must help leaders to succeed. And one of those I would like to see succeed is Ngilari. I sincerely want to see him succeed. The idea is that once you are in the presidency, no matter who you were, it changes. Yes, there may be some form of little compromise here and there. We saw some persons who were wonderful columnists, who were doing fact-checking, who were speaking truth to power, but as soon as they got into office, we heard what one of them said under the last administration. He said to people that are being killed by marauding herdsmen that the landowners, indigenous people, should choose between their life and their land. That came from a spokesperson and the presidency, and you just discover that those related to such person should be very concerned that either their head of family or their brother or whosoever he is to them is absolutely not doing the needful.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Once government starts.
Yeah, a lot of people argue.
What it says, once.
A lot of people will argue that Femi Adesina's case, his job was almost impossible because it's impossible to defend the indefensible. And Femi Adesina, before he became spokesperson to President Muhammadu Buhari, then came with a very mighty CV, you know, just like Dr. Reuben Abati under the administration of Goodluck Jonathan. So speaking for the presidency or speaking for government is a very huge task. And there is no way you can be 100% sincere. In fact, there's no way you can be 50% sincere because there will be a lot of propaganda, there will be a lot of exaggeration. Even sometimes when even government is afraid of certain things, it is the responsibility of government to go back and tell the people there is no cause for alarm, which is not exactly true. You know, we are all practicing journalism and communications, corporate communications, so we understand the weight of the responsibility. So I quite agree with you in totality. So you also agree that the president may have been tilting towards the West in majority of the sensitive appointments. The critics are saying just like the immediate past administration. You agree?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree, but I have also said something. You remember the Minister for Education? Education died under the last administration. And the sitting minister later came out to say that he knew nothing about the ministry he was given. Adamu. I guess I'm right.
Yeah.
And then you look at even the service chiefs, everybody, including people that are not even conscious of too many things going on and information, told Mr. President, please drop the service chiefs. We are not getting results. You said you needed funding, and you took 1 billion from the Sovereign Wealth Fund or so to go and buy Tucano jets. Even the cost became controversial, and the jets were to take years to land. Meanwhile, other weapons are being delivered, and some of these weapons were being carted away by bandits and terrorists who overpowered some formations of the armed forces, and the people, the headship of those were still there. And one of them or more were invited to the National Assembly for questioning or probe. And up to as we speak, some property were seized, but the president refused to relieve them of their position because some persons were just given position to, like somebody said, come and chop. When an administration is in place, no more partisan politics. All hands must be on deck to be sure that that administration succeeds. Even as a opposition party, you put out what should be done. For us analysts, we tell truth to help them through town hall meetings. But we never saw results. And there were people praising that last administration. Those of us that insisted that there's something wrong were seen as anti-government. So fast forward, the current administration should be told the truth. I disagree that it's difficult to tell truth 50%. Some of the things we saw, there was no element of truth that could be worth 20%. If we can even score 45%, that would be a wonderful pass. But come to think of it, is it the work of image managers of government to be defending what would obviously make them to look as if they can't think, or they are trying to use charm to put a spell on people? People know the truth. So why come and say something that makes you look, permit me to use the term, foolish or stupid? It's not necessary.
Citizen, but it is their responsibility to defend government, whether government is perceived. Hang on, let me finish. Whether government is perceived. Hang on now. Whether government is perceived to be good by the people or bad by the people, a presidential aide or a spokesperson cannot, morally, ethically, I don't know whether it's constitutionally, but a spokesperson of the president cannot go against the president. That's why it's very difficult to make truth even up to 50%, because government is it's a behemoth. You know, you have to exaggerate some things, you have to cover up some things, you have to pretend to be confident even when you are scared of the implications of certain actions. You understand? So I quite agree with you if you say to even make it up to 20% is a lot of work, because government is purely propaganda and exaggeration. And it is not, let us not twist this conversation, it is not only limited to Nigeria. What is happening in the Middle East as we speak, the Hamas and the Israeli forces, if you check the accounts from CNN, apart from the empirical data you have as per number of persons dead or number of casualties or lack of water or food, if you go and check another station that is Middle East oriented, you'll find out that the accounts are slightly at variance, and they are selling both to you as truths. So it is a very difficult responsibility. Yes. It's a
simple matter. Let me say this. You see, when one is a leader, you are dealing with people, and the real power belongs to the people. So where you find leaders believe that they are to lie to their people, you know that you don't even have leadership. Why is it difficult? What's difficult, what's impossible would be honest to citizens. It's because of leaders have turned themselves into, they have made governance a crime scene where you need to protect what has been taken because you can't account for it. No, it's very simple. If you have a selfless leader, and a typical Nigerian is so much at peace with himself and with so much at peace with anybody that gives something that resembles leadership. So where you find government spokespersons struggling to defend or speak or do propaganda about government, you don't have leadership. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, what are you talking about? You've done a budget. Yes, this budget is for road, is for salary, is for overhead. And then when you are to spend the money for infrastructure is not seen. The money for overhead cost, which went to you and some few persons, it's all gone. The one for road, where is it? Oh, we could not implement the budget. Is it always when it has to do with infrastructure or when it has to do with people? What programs do you have for the people? Governance is about people, not you. The earlier we make government offices less attractive, the better for us as a people. You can't have some very unproductive persons because they are a commissioner or house member or even a council chairman. You now drive a Prado of 100 and something million. You now have to move to a highbrow area. You deliver nothing, absolutely nothing. You want to compete with somebody, you have to move from there. No, we are not having governance. I said so somewhere. Look, with this you can have a government without governance. So it's now time for us to demand for governance from anybody that emerges, whether you came through the ballot or you came through the barrel of the gun or you came through rigging, which is also barrel. whatever.
Or came
we
through the
must
courts
demand
as
that
pronounced.
you be accountable.
All right.
Yes.
I quite agree with the angle, but citizen, this morning, permit me to use the word. You tried to be a moralist. Aside the major factor that is corruption that has eaten deep into our institutions, has become endemic, I think the business of defending government across the world is an arduous task. It's a difficult one. If you see a spokesperson speak 50-55% truths without exaggerating, without embellishing, without being economic with the truth, without being silent when you're supposed to speak, because it's also a lie, if we are to look at it that way, then we will know that maybe a lot of things are changing. It's actually a very, very difficult one. But I want to thank you so much, citizen. I think at this point we'll have to drop it so that we don't extend the time. It's been an interesting conversation today. We left all the channels open for people to contribute, but I guess they were a little quite busy. So we'll have another edition tomorrow. But on that note, I'd like to thank you so much for being a part of this conversation this morning at short notice, as usual. Thank you so much, Citizen Matthew Kofi Okono.
My pleasure always. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. All right, so we've been speaking to the Executive Director, Founder, and President of Open Forum, a very, very known civil society across the south of Nigeria. That's about all we will bring to you today. It's been a kind of bright and slow Monday. I hope that the rest of your day will be interesting. Join us tomorrow as we bring other developments in our nation's polity and political economy. I remain yours sincerely, Onwese Ehinoma Olusegun. Remember to join us on all our social media platforms. We'll be back tomorrow on another fresh edition. Have a great day.